Hello, how's it going?
Yeah, good. You all right?
Yeah, all good. Fantastic. Happy with the bets yesterday?
Yeah, I wasn't too happy when that penalty was given though. But yeah, never really looked like conceding. Maybe once.
Maybe once in the second half. Yeah, I think they started slow and then they just sussed them out a little bit.
Mm.
That's what they do. But
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish about Inter Milan in the Champions League.
uh,
I don't know if they'll win it, but I think they'll go all the way, I reckon.
to the final, I think.
I think so. Or close to it.
I mean, the semi-final potential is with Barcelona, right then.
Hmm.
So
I don't know.
It's a bit of a clash of styles, isn't it?
it's a bit of clash of styles, exactly. And I don't know, they go on this side, but I don't know.
From a betting point of view, they're just really trustworthy. Like especially in Champions League, you know what you're going to get, really.
Yeah, they're very consistent. They got that style and they don't really diverge from that a lot. But I think in Champions League sometimes you need to be a bit more aggressive. I like to see them against a very, very strong side away from home.
Did we watch PSG last night?
Yeah,
They were brilliant, weren't they? They were actually brilliant.
absolute madness.
I think Slot will be a little bit concerned. Obviously, they should go through now. I don't mean that. I just mean the fact that they were able to it's probably the most aggressive anyone's been against Liverpool in a long time. And there's certainly teams with more clinical forwards that could go at Liverpool.
Alisson was just excellent.
He was awesome. He was awesome. He really was.
Not seen like Liverpool like that for a long time.
I know. I took
Long time.
just because I was watching it, like about 10 minutes before, I took PSG to have the most shots and most corners. It was about 2.5, just something to follow,
Squeaking.
basically.
Just the 27 shots to 2.
Yeah, 365 gives you like the leads by, so it'll say like shots leads by or corners leads by, and like
Yeah.
corners leads by 12, shots leads by 20. And it's like whoa.
Is that 2.5? Yeah.
Yeah, literally just because went out to watch the game. I thought, this is a nice one to follow, and it just pick a team to have the most shots and corners. I could see it happening, obviously, but I didn't expect it to happen in that much.
Yeah, it was crazy the number of chances actually. First half, they've got some good players. PSG,
They have. I
really, really
don't know
good
what's
players.
happened to Dembele, by the way. He
Phenomenal.
looks a completely different player, even to this time, like last season.
Crazy.
A couple of those runs
Strange.
into traffic last night were very Messi-esque. When I know that's high praise and no one's going to be Messi, but it reminded you of that, just the way you keep hold of the ball. And
Yeah. And even to be like comparing him somewhat to Messi, it's just
But that Barcola I really like as well. He's
Yeah.
absolutely electric. He's rapid,
good.
isn't he?
so is that. I don't know how to say his name. Is it Doué?
yeah,
That come on
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Yeah,
and we all like Kvaratskhelia, don't we?
Class.
he's just so like aesthetically pleasing
Mm.
to watch.
Glides around the
He
pitch.
he just floats, doesn't he?
How Arsenal didn't sort of push for him when he became available, I don't know. I just think he suits Arsenal so much.
Marino
need
up
him,
front, mate. Marino
Don't
up
need
front.
Scoring 7 goals away in the Champions League. You don't
Yeah,
need him.
it's fun.
Yes.
It's fun. Not
From
a problem.
2.2 XG, so yeah.
Always the downer, Daniele. Come,
I know, but come
all
on.
7 goals were deserved. There's no luck at all.
Not the biggest away win in Europe, I discovered, by the way.
Who was that?
1993 Cup Winners' Cup, they won against a Belgian side, the Standard Liège or someone else. They won 7-0 away from home.
That was ridiculous. I would have put that down. I think when we did like the quick fire questions at the end of the last podcast, I think we all said unders.
Unders on goals.
At one point.
Yeah, no.
So, and Leverkusen last night as well. I'm gutted by that, to be honest with you. Just the red card obviously helps kill it, but
It was goalkeeper Howler in there as well.
Didn't look
Penalty.
at 3-0. Didn't watch the game, but highlights-wise, didn't look at 3-0.
not tie over, but very tough ass.
Close to. Yeah.
Very tough
Close
ass.
to.
Stranger things have happened.
Shall we get on with it?
With the Premier League title race seemingly over, we'll look at how the stakes and European fixtures could affect Liverpool in the betting markets over the next few months. Our panel of betting experts take their pick of the matches from another important week in the race for European qualification. While over in Italy, we discuss the possibility of a 3-horse title race as Juventus start to find some form. All that and more on today's show. Hello, welcome to the Football Betting Pod, powered by Betting Expert. I'm your host, Daniel Jenkins, joined as ever by Betting Expert's football editor, Sam Ingram. How are you doing, Sam?
Hello, Dan. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Been enjoying the midweek Champions League. Going to chat a little bit about it earlier, but some really good games. That PSG game, Liverpool PSG game in midweek.
Yeah, fresh off from PSG kind of tearing Liverpool to shreds, really, right up until, the final finishing touch. I have no idea how Liverpool's left Paris with a 1-0 lead there. But yeah, you'd have to say probably most likely to go through now. But Arne Slot and that Liverpool team will be rightly concerned that tie is far from over.
Lots of eyes will be on that match next week. I think it's going to be a really, really good one. Also joining us, Danny Ali Fischella. How are we doing?
Hello, all good, thank you.
Thoughts on Inter?
Well, they did the job, but first half only, of course, the Inter way, and I think it's the 16 under 2.5 goals in the last 19 knockout games in the Champions League under Inzaghi. Typical Inter really started slowly, far too many passes back to the goalkeeper, and then they punch when they need it. And yeah, it's good. It's good. We managed to do it what Milan wasn't able to, and probably show Feyenoord's true colors. And a bit deflating for the Italian teams who were knocked out early in the playoff, considering the Bruges, Feyenoord, and PSV have lost with an aggregate of, correct me if I'm wrong, 12-2.
Well, just another under 2.5 in the second leg, and they should be squeezing through, yeah.
Yes.
Also joining us, Scott Thornton. How are we doing, man?
All good, yeah. Just enjoying the football like everyone else. But Arsenal have contributed a lot to that aggregate scoreline, haven't they? the mighty Marino and co.
Marino's boys up front. Don't need, he's talking about Kvaratskhelia at the start of the show, Scott. No need for him. No need for him,
absolutely no need. He's he is setting the benchmark for forwards across Europe.
Yeah, I'm sure it's perfectly sustainable moving forward. I want to talk about Spotify because we could do some more comments. We could do some more tips from people listening. Sam, been a while since we've had some stuff to read out on the show, so it'd be good to get some stuff out. And I think, Sam, you said you were going to back all of them?
Yeah, I'll back all of them.
Like any tip?
Fine. Yeah. No problem.
So, if that's not a need to do it, then I don't know what is. Other thing to get through as well, I've been going back through some of the tip tracking. I mean, all of this profit is going to go out the window after the Sam backs all of these community tips. But at the moment for season 2, so since the start of the year, overall profitability for tips stands at plus 2.92 ROI for the entire show. Sam, season 2, your ROI is up to plus 7.82%, which very nice going. Overall total for the show since we started, plus 4.74% ROI. Sam, your overall record, Sam, since the start of the show is plus 12.7%, which can't complain. Must be happy with that.
Yeah, I'd take that all day.
Feels very Netflix when we're talking season 2. Is the production going up and up and up? This is going to get very Squid Game soon.
Hopefully,
see what we've got in store for season 3.
If it's Netflix, we're getting cancelled, So there'll be a revival.
I was just thinking when he
said
Sam is back in all the bets. I'm looking forward to the top comment. If nobody does it, I'm gonna make it. But Southampton to beat Liverpool at Anfield this weekend. I'd get on that.
Well, let's get on with Liverpool versus Southampton. Sam, it's the topic of your first tip. Do you want to get on with it?
Yeah, I'm not going for Southampton win, but I am going to go for under 4 goals at 1.87 in a Liverpool game at Anfield against Southampton. It feels a bit risky. It's a bit of a grim bet, actually. I doubt many people's going to follow me in on this, but the main positive for taking this selection, I suppose, is that the game is a Saturday 3:00 kickoff, so you're not going to be able to watch it. And that's fairly unusual for Liverpool, especially after European commitments. But the thinking here is pretty straightforward. We've obviously just seen Liverpool play in Paris on Wednesday night, and this is a really quick turnaround to Saturday afternoon. Southampton are terrible, we've rightfully opposed them on this podcast this season at any given chance, really. I backed Brighton against them a couple of weeks ago on the handicap. That won quite easily. But if there is ever a perfect time for Southampton to play Liverpool at Anfield, then it is this weekend. That PSG second leg is finally poised. Mentioned it a second ago. Liverpool were battered all game, really, and I've got no idea how it was 1-0. The lay of the land will be completely different at Anfield, you'd imagine, but still, Arne Slot will be aware that his players need to be 100% on it to progress. PSG will turn up with the utmost belief that they can hurt Liverpool. They did it repeatedly last night. I'd be amazed if we see a full-strength Liverpool team here on Saturday. There is no need to play the big guns, really, that they're playing the worst team in the Premier League. The second-string side should give Southampton a good game at Anfield as it is. And if Liverpool end up losing the game, is that a big deal? Like, I'd argue it's not really that big of a deal. Arsenal are 13 points behind Liverpool, and they've just, albeit confirmed, another 3 games in the Champions League, which will only hinder any slim chances of catching Liverpool as it is. And what is also important is Liverpool play Newcastle 5 days after the PSG second leg. So workload balance here is crucially important at this stage of the season for a team like Liverpool competing on all fronts. And this fixture on Saturday, yeah, it just smacks of a chance for Slot to swap and change and rotate his starting lineup. I just wanted to be against Liverpool if I could in some way this weekend, and I think this might be the only way under 4.0 Asian goes. I looked at Southampton plus 2.5 Asian handicap. That was a consideration, but I wouldn't be surprised if this did end 3-0 or 4-0. And obviously with the 4.0 goal line, Liverpool can win 4-0 and we'd get our stakes returned. So yeah, we need 5 goals to lose us this bet, 5 or more. That has landed in just 5 of 28 games for Liverpool this season, and in 6 out of 27 for Southampton. So yeah, I feel comfortable taking it knowing I need 5 goals to lose. However, if an early goal goes in and Diogo Jota scores after 15 minutes, then I'm probably not going to be sitting too comfortable. But I'm going to roll the dice and yeah, under 4 goals at 1.87.
I like it, Sam, because if you look at Liverpool, the Asian handicap has been set at minus 2.5. Average odds 1.83, but actually they only won 2 home Premier League matches this season by 3 goals or more. And I think it goes back to the discussion we had a couple of weeks ago about Liverpool, the prospects of winning a treble, not overexerting themselves in that sort of fixture. By the way, this is the only Premier League fixture they will play in the month of March, Liverpool, before obviously facing the League Cup final against Newcastle. And those treble odds, which I've been a big advocate of, have been already shortened after yesterday's wins. From 7 goes back to 6. I think it's still good value because basically you're still betting on Liverpool to win one competition and win the game against Newcastle. But there are also some other interesting markets on Bet365, which I just noticed. A points difference, winning margin for Liverpool, 1 to 3 points, 26, 4 to 6 points, 15, 7 to 9 points, 237. Betsy projects they will win it by 11 points. So I think there are some very, very good odds there for us to get into.
It's not a very Sam Ingram bet, you know? You've been
No.
on this show for well over a year now, Sam. It's not a very you bet, you know? This is what you'd see in a Betsy Best bet every couple of weeks, you know? Heavy,
Yeah,
sort of
I like
a
to
favourite.
err on the side of caution, really, don't I, usually?
You really do. But looking back, I think this would only one of Liverpool's Premier League matches in 2025 has gone above the 4 goal line. But
Yep.
that was the home game against Ipswich, another team languishing in the bottom 3. Betsy projections for this game put the goal total at 4.31, with 3.65 for Liverpool, 0.66 for Southampton. You mentioned squad rotation. I'm not saying that's going to open the door for Southampton to get on the score sheet or, you know, I'm not saying it's going to open the door for Southampton to maybe threaten to win the game like Scott thinks, but it could open the door for Southampton to get on the score sheet if we do start maybe rotation in defence, because as you said, there are bigger fish to fry for Liverpool coming up, aren't they? Do you think Southampton could get on the score sheet here? And if they do, you know, would a 2-1 Liverpool win suffice? Surely they'd be pushing on to maybe make it 3 or 4, even with a much rotated team.
Maybe, Dan. What's handy actually is the last time these two played each other was in the EFL Cup, and it was with a rotated Liverpool team. So there's a little bit to go off. I know this is different. I know it's Premier League, but there's a little bit to go off there. There was no Salah, no Van Dijk, Nioni and Morton started in midfield. That ended 2-1 to Liverpool. I've looked at the last week or so in terms of scheduling, and Southampton have had 11 days off, so it's been a bit of a mini break for them. And they've been so poor defensively over the last 10 games or so, letting in 3, 4, 5 goals consistently, that if I'm Ivan Juric, best known for his work in Serie A, there is only one thing I'd be focusing on in this mini break, and it would not be attacking sequences of play. Wouldn't be touching on them at all. I'll be getting that back line drilled to within an inch of its life, so they don't keep getting humiliated week after week. Like that just makes sense to me. So I'm hopeful. Maybe it's a bit of a leap of faith that they come, they sit in, defend valiantly, and keep it respectable. The last time that Liverpool saw widespread changes was against Plymouth in the FA Cup, and they couldn't pick Argyle apart at home park. I doubt we'll see the same level of change. Maybe we'll get a Konate or a Van Dijk. Maybe one of them will feature. But there must be such an urge from Arne Slot here to just rest them all. Like I think I would. You've got to prioritise certain games at this stage of the season, especially when you're 13 points ahead with 10 games to go. So, yeah, ultimately, Dan, 5 goals is a lot of goals to lose this bet. I'm hopeful Southampton's learned a thing or two over the past 11 days. And, yeah, they just keep the score down. But this is not one. If you have means to watch this at Saturday at 3 o'clock, I would suggest maybe don't do that.
My question is, like, who can Liverpool bring in? You know, this is a shortest squad than we've seen. They do have some defensive injuries, maybe in the sort of second string. Obviously, you've got Endo on the bench in midweek, Kwanzaa on the bench in midweek. You could bring, probably a couple of those into the defence. But it does bring about more questions about how Liverpool approach the Premier League for the rest of the season and how bettors can sort of take advantage of the situation, because they're going to have, they're going to have one eye on the PSG game, even with that 1-0 winning margin to go into the second leg. They're going to be thinking about that, and they're going to be thinking about the Carabao Cup the week after and the possibility of winning a piece of silverware this early in the season. So could this be a sort of blueprint for how bettors approach Liverpool's games in the next couple of months?
Maybe this is the perfect time to oppose Liverpool in some way. It's just a shame they're at home against Southampton. Like if it was, I don't know, near enough any other team bar Leicester, then I'm sure you'd be able to oppose them quite confidently. But yeah, it makes things difficult that it's Southampton. But this is the weekend. This is the weekend that I would imagine they don't run away or run up the score. In future games, in between the second leg of a Champions League and the first leg of a Champions League tie, yeah, it'll be primed to oppose them again. But across those legs, they're not going to have the EFL Cup final the weekend on from that. So yeah, this is the perfect time. I just hope that Southampton kind of, get their act together and don't ship 5 goals. That would be nice.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That 5-goal mark has only been breached in one of Liverpool's 13 home games this season. So there's hope. There's hope. Sam's first bet is under 4.0 goals in Liverpool versus Southampton. That's a 1.87. You go for a full unit on that, Sam?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Just to clarify, I don't actually think Southampton will win the game. I don't think they'll score. I was just, if Sam is obligated to back all the comments, then that was the only loser I could think of.
We're just going to cut that out, Scott. Moving over to Daniele's first bet coming over from Serie A.
Napoli, Asian handicap -1 against Fiorentina. They play on Sunday afternoon. Napoli are winless in 5 games. That's the first time it ever happened to Antonio Conte since he's a manager in Europe top 5 leagues. But they were probably worth a win against Inter in the top of the table clash last Saturday. Finished 1-1. But Napoli showed energy and cohesion and also pressing that they didn't have in the last few months, which makes you believe that probably physically they are getting better and better. Now, this is the test. This is the key, because they will play after Inter for the second week in a row. Last time they did, they lost a common, they lost the top of the league. Inter host Monza, who are bottom of the league, on Saturday. They will make rotations, but I would imagine Inter could dispatch them. So Napoli could kick off -4 from Inter. Now, if they let Inter go, the title is over. If the gap opens between 3 points, the title is virtually over, I think. They need to stay, they keep touch with it. But I think they have turned the corner. As I said, they end that game against Inter 19 shots against 6, a goal from the bench from Billing. Zambo Anguissa gets back into the side. They are still a bit light up front, but I think they could compensate that with the rhythm and the willingness to get the 3 points, which I think they should be due soon. And again, I find this is a good price. You could maybe go for the Asian handicap -0.75, which basically is a win for Napoli, but if only one goal, you just get half a stake. Reverse fix you, they won 3-0. Yeah, I think this is probably when Napoli will keep up with Inter. So yeah, I do like the fact that they're gonna win.
Looking at the recent sort of underlying data, which Betsy goes on, Betsy's not too hot on Napoli at the moment, Daniele, going for... No, it's 1.15 projected goals for Napoli in this game to 0.71 for Fiorentina. So 0.44 difference. Looking at more recent games for Napoli, they've been struggling to keep clean sheets, haven't they? I think it's 6 or 7 straight Serie A matches without a clean sheet. Do you think that run would have to end if this bet's going to come in and it'll need to shut Fiorentina out in order to get that -1 over the line?
I think this potential is a both team to score, because Fiorentina, it is true they have lost their way recently, specifically since I had the injury to Eduardo Bove in December. They lost the anchor in midfield. They had to change formation. They're playing much more direct now than they used to do. David De Gea is 5th in Serie A for long balls. And they seem to revert almost into the shell. They seem to be much more comfortable, Fiorentina, sitting deep without possession. They did it against Lazio, Genoa, against Inter. But if they do it against Napoli, it's got such a strong willpower to win the league and to win the game, I think they're going to suffer a defeat. But Fiorentina get back Moise Kean, the best striker, after an injury, and he's going to start. Strangely, for Fiorentina, this season of 2.5 probably hinges more on their successes in the Conference League, which they play tonight away at Panathinaikos. Should they overcome Panathinaikos, I will put them strong favourites to reach the final and to meet Chelsea in that final. But they have just won 3 out of 8 games, Fiorentina, this season after playing in the Conference League. 6 of those games have ended with both teams to score and at least 3 goals. So normally Fiorentina do open up when they make a few changes. I think this could be a both team to score and Napoli victory as well, which again the price will be much high. But just coming back on the Scudetto, this game against Inter, the bookies think that Inter have actually got an advantage after that contest because they didn't lose, and in fact the Inter odds have shortened from 175 to 272. Conversely, Napoli odds have increased. But this is going to be a very close race, a very projected low tally. 81.4 Betsy projects Inter to win the league, which will be 16 less than last season. Never such a low tally since 2012, I guess. And with Napoli projected to finish with 78.1, really, they'll be in touching distance. 21% chances of winning the league for Betsy. They are not over. And I think having kept touch with Inter is a great win for them. Because again, had Inter won that game, I think you could have said Scudetto was over. But now, Napoli in the last 7 games, they only play teams in the bottom half of the table. Inter still in 3 competitions. It does take its toll, I think.
I know Atalanta go to Turin this weekend to face Juventus.
Yes.
If they were to go there and pick up all 3 points, drop points for Inter or Napoli would really, really put them back amongst it. And I think you'd be a lot more in tune with the way Atalanta are playing at the moment. I know they had their wobbles, but I think it's probably a little bit early to rule them out.
No, exactly.
It'd be a massive weekend for them.
Also because next week is Atalanta-Inter. So again, it's either... We'll be talking about Atalanta in a second. I think whoever wins that that one, it's officially still in the title race. A draw eliminates them both, basically, unless obviously Inter drops points against Fiorentina. So it could be a good game as well. But you can't discard Juve. It's a four horse race, although it sounds paradoxical considering the season that you have had. But there are underlying data that suggest they are still in it. And I even heard some people say even Lazio, because there are 8 points behind with 11 games to go, could be considered potential title candidates. Seems a bit of a stretch. But Napoli, going back to Napoli, look, this is the game. This is the game they got to win. If they win this one, I would imagine the odds for Napoli to win the Scudetto will reduce massively.
Yeah, very big match in the Serie A title race. A big weekend in the Serie A title race.
Yeah, totally.
Daniele's first bet is Napoli -1 versus Fiorentina in the Asian handicap market. That's a 2.02 with the full unit on that. Scott, over to you, back to the Premier League for Wolves versus Everton.
Yeah, I'm quite looking forward to this game, strangely. Everton have been really enjoyable since Moyes come back. I looked at the scoring averages. 1.88 goals per Premier League game under Moyes, which is an increase from 0.79 before his arrival. It's incredible. I think what makes it even more impressive is the amount of injuries they've had to attackers, like the likes of Ndiaye, Calvert-Lewin, Decore had a suspension. There's more. They've had 8 different scorers in the last 7 league games. Everybody's just chipping in. It's just a whole team effort. They just look much sharper going forward. Beto looks composed in front of goal. That's something I never thought I'd really say.
Looks brilliant.
I don't really know what's happened there. There was a moment in that Merseyside derby at Goodison when he puts it's the first goal. The finish is exceptional. He just composed the way he puts it past Alisson. We've seen what Alisson is capable of. Always makes himself big. And I thought it's the same Beto that we've seen all season, but they've been marvellous. So I'm going to back Everton to score in this one and over 11.5 goal kicks. It looks set up for Everton to put a shift in again. I'm not so sure if they'll win the game. It's a tricky one. Wolves are also improved under Pereira. I think they've won 2 of their 5 home games since their managerial change. But I do fancy Everton to give it a good go. They beat Wolves 4-0 earlier in the season. Bit of an anomaly result, massively overperformed the XG. But yeah, Everton to get on the score sheet despite their attacking injuries. They do some returns in the coming weeks. I haven't seen the latest update from the manager, but regardless, they're showing plenty of attacking intent. The goal kick side of things, both teams' matches average over 13.5 over the course of the whole season. There were 14 goal kicks in the reverse fixture as Everton won 4-0. You'd hope this is a bit more end-to-end. Ideally, both teams contributing towards the goal kick count. There's been 14 or more goal kicks in all 3 of Everton's away games under Moyes, with an average of 16.67, so comfortably above the 11.5 required for my bet to land. So yeah, back in Everton to score and over 11.5 goal kicks in the match. Hopefully both teams really give it a go. You'd say they're both kind of safe, really. I don't think anybody expects any of the bottom 3 to make up the gap on Wolves. I know they are only on 22 points, and a win would probably make them even more comfortable, but I wouldn't say Pereira's massively worried about the prospect of relegation at this stage. So hopefully just a good game, a nice end-to-end game with 2 teams trying to show some attacking impetus.
Yeah. On the injuries for Everton, Calvert-Lewin, Amado Broja and Abdoulaye Doucouré should all be back for this weekend, but Ndiaye is another week away, apparently. Looking at the Betsy projection, so Betsy's projecting 1.13 goals for Wolves and 0.94 for Everton, Scott, and that's going to be based on long-standing data far beyond Moyes' tenure at the club, or second tenure at the club. So if this bet is to fall down, which do you think is the most likely? Is it Everton getting a goal, or is it the goal kicks?
I'd say the Everton goal, just because we are talking about a small sample size with Moyes. Say he's only had 3 away games in charge. They have scored in all 3. But I just think he's managed to bottle this magic where somehow Everton have gone from being in the doldrums. So now there's a bit of positivity, and I think there's a nice narrative with Moyes coming back to the club. And you can't argue with that increase from 0.79 goals per game to 1.88 with Moyes. So I think the feel-good factor will continue. They'll put in a good performance. New stadium on the way, and I think there's a lot to be excited about as an Everton fan at the moment, which is not something we thought we'd be saying like November time.
On the main markets, the goal line is at 2.25. You can get over 2.0 at like 1.70. Which just looks like ridiculously low for a Premier League game. Like you said, Dan, they've got attacking players coming back. Everton, much improved in the final third under Moyes. That just looks really low. I know Betsy's projecting 2.07 goals, but like you said, that's spanning the course of the season.
But no Mateus Cunha, right?
No Cunha.
No Cunha.
I think I read somewhere he contributed to 16% of Wolves attacking phases. It was like the third for most contributions. So I think that's a big miss.
He obviously prizes it luck from distance as well, doesn't he? I think he scored the most goals from outside the box in the Premier League. Wolves have scored the joint fewest goals inside the 6-yard box. So creativity could be an issue for Wolves, but I do think that line is far too low, considering this is a game where Wolves are playing Everton at home. They're going to think, right, 3 points here probably makes us safe. I know they're not particularly worried about it because the bottom three are so bad, but still. 7
Premier League matches unbeaten for Everton. It's their longest unbeaten streak in the league since December 2017.
That's remarkable, really.
Anyone know the manager?
Martinez?
It was Sam Allardyce. Danny Ellie, well done. Yeah, it was his first 6 or 7 matches in charge.
Martinez was well before that.
Yeah, it was a bit.
Yeah.
Fair play. No, doing well, aren't they? Scott Thornton's first bet of the pod is over 0.5 goals for Everton and over 11.5 goal kicks in Wolves versus Everton. That's a 1.95 with the full unit on that. Sam, back to you. Staying in the Premier League for West Ham versus Newcastle.
Yes, Monday Night Football. I'm going for West Ham plus 0.25. Asian handicap at 1.93. Spoke about it a minute ago. There is a very big game on the horizon next weekend. EFL Cup final. Newcastle's obviously involved. And I've seen a few bits and pieces this week in terms of injury news for Newcastle, which doesn't look great for that weekend. So therefore, probably doesn't look too good for West Ham on Monday night either. Sven Botman is undergoing knee surgery again after coming back from ACL surgery, so he'll miss the final. Lewis Hall is also out and requires surgery. And I feel for him because I think he had a great shout of being in that England squad. He's been really good recently. So that's a shame. He won't be available for West Ham or the cup final. Anthony Gordon is suspended for that push on Van Heck's face in the Brighton game, which was just the daftest thing I have seen in a long time. So, yeah, he's out for the final. Imagine missing a final because of doing that.
He's a Liverpool fan, so maybe he's in the crowd. Maybe he's gone.
Makes sense, yeah. Makes sense. In that Brighton game as well, Alexander Isak came off of that Brighton game on the 2nd of March, and that will be 8 days before they face West Ham on Monday night. So, big question for me is, does Eddie Howe start Alexander Isak? I'm not sure if he can afford to risk him with Gordon being out of that front line as well. Isak subbed off against Brighton. Apparently it was due to tightness, Eddie Howe said. But still, any slight hint of a niggle, you'd have to wrap him in cotton wool for that final, surely. And scheduling-wise, it's not ideal that they play on Monday night. I doubt many people in Newcastle will be thrilled about that. I'm sure they'd have loved the Saturday 3 o'clock, but for whatever reason, that they're playing on a Monday night. So go into West Ham without Gordon, Hall, Botman, potentially Isak, and with an EFL Cup final on the weekend, West Ham might just run a little bit harder, be willing to throw themselves into duels just that little bit more. And that could be enough at this level for the home side to at least earn a draw. So on the plus handicap, I thought that looked a pretty solid play considering the circumstances and considering the scheduling. It was at plus 0.5 earlier on in the week, but obviously we're recording on a Thursday now. That's long gone, but still plus 0.25. I think that's a pretty good bet for the weekend.
I was taking a look at Potter and just how he's improved them. Let's just tighten things up. We were talking about how poor defensively they were under Lopetegui, and now their matches have seen very few goals. Don't get me wrong, he hasn't found the balance. Their attack is pretty blunted as well at the moment, but the matches under Potter, Premier League, have averaged 2.29 goals per game, which would be the fewest if that was the rate over the course of the season. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to just see how they've changed, and I think that lends itself nicely to your bet, because if it's a tight game, I fancy West Ham, to be honest.
First goal is massive here. Newcastle have conceded the first goal in 10 out of 14 away games this season. only kept 3 clean sheets on the road. And yeah, to go back to what you said, Sam, I think if they do concede the first goal, they start thinking about the cup final of the weekend, which is much more important for them.
What do you think about Isak? Do you think he's out of the squad, doesn't play?
You can't risk him, can you? Surely.
No,
But
I don't think so.
without Gordon, who's the second most creative player for expected goal, expected assist in Newcastle, if you do without Isak as well, you're almost surrendering yourself to West Ham. I mean, there is an outside chance Newcastle can finish in the top 5, bearing in mind that the 5th this season in the Premier League qualifies for the Champions League. So giving up on that and all the consequences and the ramification could be really, really costly. But on the other hand, is the silverware. The final against Liverpool. So I think it's a difficult choice, but I think Isak should start really.
They haven't won a trophy since in 1955. So I think they're going to have to
long time. Yeah.
What's going to be most important for the club, and what's going to be most important for the sort of management in the team? I think there's going to be a bit of discrepancy between that, similar to Man City against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago when they were sandwiched in between 2 Real Madrid games in the Champions League. Right, that first leg tie was pretty much settled things. You could argue Liverpool's recent match against Newcastle was essentially the first leg of that, and it looks like on paper, if the game goes anywhere similar to what we saw at Anfield, that Carabao Cup is, a bit of an open shut case, isn't it? If Newcastle put all their eggs in the Carabao Cup final basket and miss out on a Champions League place as a result, that's not going to be good for the club, is it?
No, it's not. And I might have to put a tweet out and just quote you and say the EFL Cup final is a open and shut case and hashtag
we'll see
NUFC and just see what happens.
But depending, if you're dealing with emotions or if you're dealing with finances, if you're dealing with emotions, the Carabao Cup is much more important than finish 5th in the Premier League. Nobody remembers you finish 5th in the Premier League. But if you finish 5th in the Premier League, you play 8 Champions League games, which pay more than used to pay when Newcastle qualified for the Champions League. And I think for Newcastle, the important is to have that continuity in Europe, whether it's Europa League or Champions League, rather than doing 1 year on and 1 year off, 1 year on and 1 year off. But yeah, for them, the Carabao Cup is the Champions League final, so it's difficult.
I think Eddie Howe's really in tune with the club and the supporters up there, and he'll fully be aware of what the supporters want. I would imagine 90-95% of fans would prefer a day out at Wembley and to lift silverware at Wembley over a 5th place finish. And to be fair, this is just one game. This is just one game where they might have to rest their star striker and whoever else. Then after the EFL Cup final, they can kick on, and the last 9 or so games they can really give it their all. But just in terms of Isak, I just think he has to miss West Ham, because in that cup final, he can be the difference maker. He can win you that cup final. If anyone will, it's going to be a moment or two of brilliance from Isak. So yeah, I think you've got to rest him. And that Newcastle team, when the Newcastle team comes out on Monday night, I would imagine there will be a bit of money for West Ham if it's going to read as I think it's going to read.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Those defensive injuries for Newcastle could be looking in the more immediate term. Obviously, didn't get by it for a couple of games, but looking a little bit in the medium term for the rest of the season, that could be a killer. Like Lewis Hall's out for the rest of the season. Apparently, he's going to miss the entire season. In fullback areas, they're left with Kieran Trippier, who is sort of in and out of the team with injury. They've got Livramento as well, and it's Matt Targett, I think, is the only other recognised fullback in the squad. You push down Burn out there, but you're missing Botman in the middle.
I think that they'll be okay if the back four they're going to go with is Trippier, Livramento, Burn and Shaw. I think that's a pretty steady back four in the Premier League. If one of them gets injured, especially at fullback, then yeah, it's a different story. But right now they look okay. Just fingers crossed they can, stay fit, I suppose, and not push anyone in the face and get a free match ban.
Have they got a Swiss Army knife in the mould of Mikel Merino? Maybe they could.
They did have Mikel Merino about 6 years ago, and they sold him.
They didn't see the talent there.
They didn't see the talent. They played the
it.
midfielder in midfield.
Yeah.
The idiot.
Wasted.
Stick him up front. Yeah. Sam's second bet is West Ham plus 0.25 versus Newcastle in the Asian handicap market. That's a 1.93 with a full unit on that. Daniele, over to you to continue discussion of a potential 3-4, 2-3-4, 4 title race, 5 a title race in Serie A.
I think, you Atalanta Sunday night. As I said before, whoever wins it can still dream about a Scudetto. Whoever loses doesn't. If they draw, basically they shoot both each other's foot, because a draw doesn't really help at this point. But Juventus, the season full of contradictions. Up until 2 weeks ago, there are a lot of fans asking for Motta's to be sacked after being eliminated by the Champions League and the Coppa Italia. Now they're 6 points behind Inter, and with a projected win in Italy very low, 81.4 points. Yes, they need to be considered contenders. However, this is going to be the crash test for Juve, and the next game at Fiorentina as well, but more this one, because Juventus have seemed to have rediscovered their pedigree, winning a bit ugly and keeping clean sheets. In fact, the one against Verona was the 14th clean sheet of the season, better than Atletico Madrid in Europe with 13, and they have conceded 1 goal less than Napoli. And they have gone through difficult spells, for the last 13 games, following the injury to Gelson Bremer. They had conceded goals, and they kept conceding goals for 6 consecutive matches: Bologna, Venezia, Monza, Fiorentina, Torino, Atalanta. But now, with a few signings in January, Renato Vega, Kelly, Gatti back to full fitness, Weah's been reinvented as a fullback. They seem to have found the best formation, the best 11. Finally, in March, Motta is not changing the starting 11 as much as he used to do. But this is a tough one, because Atalanta have got the best attack away from home. Lately, they seem to win only 5-0 or doing 0-0 at home in the league. But they score an average of 2.14 goals away from home in Serie A. And with Retegui, Lukman, De Catelare, all fit to start. For Atalanta, really, this season is now or never. It's a bit like the last dance for the Chicago Bulls, because Gasperini is going to leave at the end of the season, probably after 9 years. Lukman might leave as well. There is a team that is going to be much changed next season. And after winning the Europa League, really, I don't think they're going to have a better chance to win the Scudetto than this season. But they got to win in Turin, a place when they haven't won since 2021. So, not an easy one for them. I think this is going to be an under. Under 2.5 goals, 188. Potentially another draw, which would probably end both title hopes.
Interesting, very interesting. There's lots to talk about. I want to go through both teams, but just before we do that, looking at the betting projections for this game, Juventus projected 1.28 goals, Atalanta 1.05, goal total of 2.32. So certainly on side with your prediction here, Daniele. But looking at Juventus, as you said, like things seem to have turned around. The January signings seem to be helping. And we were speaking earlier on in the show for your first bet, talking about Fiorentina and their responses to European matches. It feels like in the last couple of weeks, Juventus have done really well to not let disappointing results in cup competitions and in Europe affect their league form. Do you think that's been key to them kind of emerging from this difficult season as a potential title challenger?
I think that the beginning of the season has been so disappointing and so inconsistent, and they seemed so unable to hang on to leads, hence the 14 draws, that this is almost a regression to mean. This is a team that is much stronger than the points they have on the table. And had they kicked on earlier, they could have been way ahead of Inter. They've let a lot of results go just because of the lack of experience. It's one of the youngest Juventus we've ever seen as well, and a lack of cohesion. Motta's changed many formations. Juventus spent over 200 million in the transfer market. At some point, something had to give. You can't expect Juve to be so mediocre for such a long time. We can make all the comparisons we want. They have 1 less points than what they had in 2011, 2012 under Conte. At this stage of the season, they won the league. Same points they had under Allegri in 21, 2022. So again, they are on track. But I think they are on track also because above them, the 3 teams, none of them have really run away. So it's yeah, the truth lies in both camps. Juventus will kick on. They're projected to finish third. I don't think they are title material yet, but they could be next season if Motta will be given time as it should be.
And just on Atalanta, quickly, you touched upon the contrast between their home and away form. It's quite staggering, actually. 8 wins, 2 draws in their last 10 away matches in Serie A, but haven't won a home game since, what, before Christmas?
Before Christmas, yeah. Three consecutive draws, plus the defeat to Bruges, plus the defeat to Bologna in Coppa Italia. Atalanta suffers, especially the low blocks, and this has been an issue for most of the times. It's all about rhythm, it's all about possession, but if the opposition sits 30 meters back, it's a bit difficult. They not always have somebody to unlock them. They had a few injuries in key positions, namely Lokman, Pasalic have been in and out of the squad, so maybe a bit of fatigue there. But sometimes they don't seem to diverge from the plan A too much, and if things don't go that way, they can even be surprised, as Brugge did. Away from home, when teams tend to attack them, then they got more joy, and I think that's why this potentially, if Juve plays into Atalanta's hands, it could become a goal fest. But the reverse fixture finished 1-1, and that was one of the best games Juventus played. They ended the game with more shots than Atalanta back in Bergamo, and they kind of outsmarted them a little bit. Back then, Motta decided to play without a number 9. Kolo Muani hadn't arrived yet, so they played with Nico Gonzalez, and they were very able to react to the pressing of Atalanta. If they do something similar, I think it will be, again, another low-scoring match.
Yeah, pretty interesting match from Serie A on Sunday night. Daniele's second bet of the show is under 2.5 goals in Juventus versus Atalanta. It's a 1.88 with a full unit on that. Scott, over to you. Last single of the show. Tottenham versus Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think this got potential to be the game of the weekend, really. Tottenham were on their way to recovery before the Man City defeat, so there's probably no shame. And I know Tottenham generally do well against City. At least that, to my mind, they do. Not so much of the Etihad generally, but anyway, Tottenham improved a little bit. They're always exciting. Bottom half finish looks likely, but Postecoglou stuck with his guns. The pressure on him's gone a bit quiet lately, so I think he's going to see out the season regardless, and they'll probably take stock then. But you know what you get from Tottenham and Bournemouth, to be honest. They'll be high intensity, high pressing, aggressive off the ball, quite vertical in the way they attack, looking to pass the ball forward whenever possible. And there's good, tricky players in these advanced areas of the pitch. And I think, in turn, we'll see an exciting game. You expected me to say goal, but I'm actually gone over 34.5 throws and over 38.5 tackles. Again,
I expected throws, tackles, goal kicks.
Yeah,
et
clearly.
cetera,
If you know Scott, you expect throws.
Yeah. So an exciting game. Yeah, hopefully it does mean goals, but it usually means throws and goal kicks. But here we go for tackles. The recent head-to-head earlier in the season was quite ridiculous for both of these angles. So let's delve into the numbers a little bit more. Tottenham matches have seen the most tackles in the Premier League with an average of 40.48, but that rises to above 41 if we just factor in the data from their home matches. Bournemouth matches have seen the 4th most tackles in the league with an average of around 38. So just below what I'm asking here, but that tends to go out the window when they play Tottenham because you've got two teams that are very single-minded. They're looking to do one thing and they will not deviate from the plan, and that really does mean we see a lot of tackles. There were 49 tackles in the reverse fixture and 42 when Bournemouth travelled to this ground last season. I think we could see more like the 49. I think Bournemouth won 1-0 on that day. Tackles generally lead to throw-ins as well. A lot of the tackles do come in wide areas when players are isolated man-to-man and people are forced to make the tackle. Bournemouth matches have seen an average of 39.3 throws, which is the most in the division. Tottenham matches see 33, so low, but the stylistic matchup, again, is a big factor in this, and there were 54 throws when they met earlier in the season, and again, 38 in this fixture last season. So it's purely down to two managers looking to be aggressive without the ball, some decent forwards on show, and it should be a good game with plenty of goals and plenty of tackles flying in.
Yeah, Betsy certainly agrees with the goals angle, expecting 3.81 total goals from this game. 2.04 for Tottenham, 1.77 for Bournemouth. Looking at the injury news, Tottenham could welcome back a host of key players as well. Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, and Dominic Solanke all could potentially play on Thursday night, and as a result could be back fit, ready for Sunday. So, Scott, I've had to push you for a winner an outcome? What are you expecting Tottenham to continue their decent return to form, or back in the visitors here with Bournemouth?
I think Bournemouth will edge it, but it really is a pick-em for me. Like it's a coin toss game. Both teams have been rotten with injuries this season. It's been really unlucky. Their attacks have been decimated really, and Ange has been quite vocal in the way he's sort of made the excuse in the press conference, we could say, but it is a valid excuse in fairness to him. I just think, regardless of who either manager feels, we see the exact same Tottenham or the exact same Bournemouth. So I'm not too worried about gamesmanship coming into it in any way. We should see a cracking game.
Yeah, I would agree with Scott there. Just to say that Kulusevski has just been ruled out for, I'm not sure how long, but he's in a protective boot, and he's probably their best player maybe this season. So that's a blow. And also Tottenham are away in the Netherlands tonight, Thursday night. So if you're going to be back in, anyone on the main markets, I would be leaning towards Bournemouth as well. Draw no better the minute. So
yeah, I mean, this could be 3-0 either way and anything in between, couldn't it? Absolute pick 'em on Sunday afternoon. Scott's second bet is over 34.5 throws and over 38.5 tackles in Tottenham versus Bournemouth. So 1.86 if you combine it as a double with a full unit on that. On with this week's pod treble. And Sam, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, so I'm going for, I think I picked this last week, Birmingham win and under 4 Birmingham goes. It's back at 1.70 versus Lincoln City. Birmingham lost against Bolton away from home in the week. They looked leggy, looked tired, and they were second best in Bolton. So that's obviously not ideal, but it has presented us with a chance to take what is a tried and tested Birmingham selection of win and under 3.5 Birmingham goals. Now, I'm expecting a response. Lincoln at St Andrews on a Saturday afternoon isn't Bolton away from home midweek at 7:45 on a Tuesday night. Birmingham should have enough to get a positive result over the line here. Really, Betsy has this at a 1.80 expected goals for the home team and 0.73 for Lincoln. Again, probably said it last week, but this is a mid-table championship side running out in League One when they play at home. And if you can back them in this kind of spot at 1.70 or bigger, then you should, because it usually ends well. They've won 14 of 17 home games this season. They're still unbeaten. The other 3 games they've drawn. They've only scored 4 or more goals once in the whole season, and that was against what was a really, really poor Cambridge United side at the time before new management came in Cambridge. And I was on this that day as well. So yeah, for this weekend, Birmingham win under 3.5. Birmingham goes to 1.70, which is the perfect price for the treble.
Yeah. Looks good. Scott, over to you for your pick.
So we're going Forest versus City, under 33.5 throws and under 27.5 shots. Kind of the opposite thinking to the previous game, really. Forest averaged the lowest possession in the Premier League. They take on the team who have the most ball in the Premier League, and City won't particularly rush. They don't tend to pepper the goal. So I think we'll just see sustained pressure from the visitors as the home side look to hit on the counter. And as you'd expect, the numbers line up quite well. So Forest's last home game was a 0-0 draw with Arsenal, and this one probably the most similar class to that. Obviously, Arteta is a student of Pep's, if you like, and there was 25 throws and 19 shots in that, so well below the under 33.5 throws and 27.5 shots that I'm asking for. Bet won last season in this fixture. City won 2-0 on that occasion. It was towards the end when they were needing to win to basically seal up the title, or at least stay ahead of Arsenal. Just think it'll be Forest just sitting there and trying to absorb pressure and looking to hit on the counter with the likes of Alanga, and the throw count will dwindle as a result. And you'd need City to rack up quite a few shots, I think, to exceed the 27.5 here. And I don't really see them getting the high sort of 15, 16, 17 shots. I think it'll be a little bit lower.
Yeah, looks good. Daniele, close it off.
Leipzig travel to the Black Forest, and I'm going to give them an Asian handicap 0 against Freiburg, so siding with the visitors here. Look, it's very exciting in the top 4, race for top 4 in Bundesliga. There are 6 teams in the space of 5 points, and we haven't included Borussia Dortmund, who are 10th, but Freiburg have emerged a bit of a black horse from the Black Forest, very fittingly. with 5 wins in a row. Only Bayern Munich in the last 6 games have collected more points than them. But the question is, are they gonna regress to mean? Is it time to oppose them? Last season they finished 10th. Mainz finished 13th, were ahead of them of 1 point. And Betsy gives Freiburg a projected chances of 16.5 to finish in the top 4. But they only got the 12th best attack in the Bundesliga, and they have overperformed the expected points by 3.71. But this is going to be a low-tally Bundesliga season with Mainz, as I said, projected to qualify for the Champions League only with 54.5 points, which is the lowest tally since 2007-2008. So whereas Freiburg at 4.5 to qualify for the Champions League top 4 are worth considering, it is also worth taking into account that now they are the 4th most profitable team in the 1x2 market with a return on investment of 11.5, which hasn't happened since 2019-2020, but they are projected from now on only to achieve 1.29 points per game. They host Leipzig, as we said, who are behind them in the table, but they are projected by Betsy to finish 7 points ahead of them in the table. So by law of average, they shouldn't lose this game, Leipzig, because if they lose them, then all those Betsy projections get out the window, and I do trust Betsy in this one. So I go for the handicap 0, which is obviously is a very high odds, 201. If it's a draw, you get your money back.
Yeah. Prices come in slightly on Sam's selections, but if you put all 3 of those bets together into treble, you get odds of 6.03, which we will be backing for a quarter of a unit. Let's have a recap of the bets. Sam, start with you.
I went for Liverpool vs Southampton under 4 goals at 1.87. West Ham plus 0.25 Asian handicap versus Newcastle at 1.93. And also Birmingham winning under 4 Birmingham goals versus Lincoln at, what's it now, Dan?
1.66.
1.6. All right, that's annoying. I'll still have a unit on all those 3.
Okay. And Scott?
I've gone Wolves versus Everton. Everton to score and over 11.5 goal kicks in the match at 1.95. Tottenham versus Bournemouth, over 34.5 throws and over 38.5 tackles at 1.86 a unit on both.
And Daniele?
2 Serie A games, Napoli, Atalanta, Napoli, Fiorentina, Napoli -1 at 202, Juventus, Atalanta under 2.5 goals at 188, both with 1 unit.
And as Sam said, his treble selection is Birmingham win and under 4 Birmingham goals versus Lincoln, so 1.66. Scott's going for under 33.5 throws and under 27.5 shots in Nottingham Forest versus Manchester City. And Daniele's going for Leipzig +0 versus Freiburg. That's a 2.01. Put all those together into the pod treble and you'll get odds of 6.03, which we've tracked for a quarter of a unit. If you are going to be using any of the bets from today's show, then please gamble responsibly. Only bet where you can afford to lose. Thank you, as ever, to Sam Ingram.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Scott Thornton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniele Fiscalo.
Thank you.
Thanks from me. We'll be back next week.